So let's start with the new session, and this is about the sessions. So when we deal with the web application, there is a huge problem of maintaining a session. So what is a session as such? A session is nothing but it's the duration during which a user is active or user is doing something with the application. So when I say user is doing something with your application, the user may be sending a request and getting a response, and that is what matters us. Now, if you look at the application that I'm running over here, the PowerPoint knows very well which is my current location. So it knows that I'm there at this particular slide and I'm doing something with this slide. I don't have to do any extra effort in maintaining my current state with this PowerPoint. But when it comes to the web application, there is a huge problem of maintaining the current state of any user. The reason behind this is the protocol that is used for interaction with your page usually does not support the handling of this state. In other words, the protocol that we are mainly using is the HTTP. The HTTP does not support the maintenance of the state of the user. So what do I mean by saying state of the user? HTTP will not tell us what was the previous state and what used to happen before this current request is made by the user. Now, this is a huge problem for us because if at all you want to use any application, for example, even if I start a simple application in my Windows. Now this application, as I'm inputting something, this is a new request. So whatever I'm typing is a new request. And when I press enter, it knows that I have to start from the third line and I have to start after 4 letters or 5 letters and so on and so forth. That means automatically the current state of the user is known. If I switch to other application and then I go back to the same application, it still knows what was my current state. What is the problem with the HTTP is HTTP knows only the current request. HTTP knows that I am sending some work. But before this, whether I was there in the third line or whether I was there in the fourth line or whether I was there at the beginning of the line, these informations are not given to your application. That is why session handling becomes a bit complicated issue when it comes to the web application. Now let's look at what is the meaning of saying a session. A session is a period of time in which all the activities by the same web client are considered to be related. So what do I mean by that? Now if I start an application like the hotel reservation application, the minute the user selects a particular room until the user makes the payment, all the requests that are sent by a particular user are all related. Suppose if you are ordering a pizza from a online pizza store, I can't move my hand here. The minute I move it, so if you are ordering a pizza from a online pizza shop, the minute you make that ordering, if you say I want to select this pizza and this is my home address and this and so on and so forth, every request that you are making are all related. So I must know that you have ordered this particular pizza and this is in the home address and I'm supposed to deliver this pizza on this particular day. All requests are related. And you know very well all the requests are coming from different pages. First he will show the set of different varieties of pizza which is available. The user will select one of them. Then they will go to the second page. In the second page they will type their home address. In the third page they are going to give the payment. All these previous requests from the page 1 to the page 2 to the page 3 all are related requests. And we need to take care of what has happened before the request for this page was made. What was the previous request? What request was made in the previous page? That has to be taken care, and that is where the session comes into picture. So session is a way in which we identify and manage the state. So this is a technique that we use in order to know that what happened in the previous page and what is the current request. So this is what is the meaning of saying managing the state. So before I can get the address of the user, I know that this was the pizza that was selected by this particular user, or this was the room that was booked by a particular customer for my online hotel reservation. Okay, or in a simplest way, I know that this particular user has already logged in, and I am not supposed to again ask the same user to log in again and again for every page. So the first the user comes to one page and they log in. After that, for all the subsequent requests that the user is making, I must be aware, or my application must be aware, that this particular user's credentials are already been verified, and there is no need to again and again ask the user about the same credential. Okay. Now this is what we mean by saying session tracking, a way in which we track the user. So the minute he logs in, then we know that okay, he has already given the credential. When he goes to the next page, I know that this is the same user. It is not again and again. I'm not asking. It's like you go to a shop and you say to a person salesman over there, I want to buy a T-shirt, and he will look at one T-shirt and he turns back and again he comes back and again he asks the same question, what do you want? Again you say that okay, I want a T-shirt. He will show one more brand. Again he turns back. Again when he is turning back to you, again he is asking what do you want. This is going to irritate the customer. The same way, when the customer logs in, I know that I got his credential. Again and again I'm not asking, give me your credential again. I want to validate your username and password. This will definitely irritate the user. Or when the user is giving the credit card details, I cannot ask the user what is that you have ordered, why you are paying me so much of money, what items have you purchased from my side. I must know that the user has purchased something, and that is why he is paying. So in other words, I must retain the state of my application. So let's go ahead and let's look at how to use the session. One of the main reasons why we are using the session, I have already told you, is because of the problem with the HTTP. HTTP is always a stateless protocol. What is the meaning of saying HTTP is a stateless protocol? Is HTTP always asks the server, or HTTP always tells the server that here, server, here, you got this request, that's all. So this person has given me this request, that is it. Whether it's the same person, if you ask that question to the HTTP says, I don't know anything about this person. He wants to log in, that's all. Has he logged on before? Did he came yesterday? Or has he purchased some item? If you ask that question to the HTTP protocol, the protocol says, I don't know anything about it. This person has given me this request and I am giving it to you. Whether it was the same person, whether it is somebody else, whether you know him or whether you don't know him, that's all your problem, or that's the problem of your application. It's not my problem. So when I go to a Google, or when I go to any site for that matter, when I send a request, it is always a fresh request for the web application. So HTTP will not tell that this is the same person, he ordered a pizza and now he is paying, and so on and so forth. It will not help me in maintaining the state of my customer. So that's the reason we have to go ahead and we have to get this session, or we have to somehow use a technique wherein we can store the state of the application. So when a user makes a request, in our application we have to devise a technique wherein I will do something in a particular way so that I can recognize that this is the same person. How can I recognize a person? The simplest way is to identify with the unique ID, and this ID is called as the session ID. So whenever a person comes to you, you just assign an ID to the user. You tell the user that this is your ID. I am not saying this is your username and this is your user ID. This has nothing to do with the usernames or user ID or password and email or phone number or anything. We generate a unique ID, a 32 a length of 32 characters, hexadecimal number, which is unique. The algorithm is generates a unique number. It's the same thing when you go for a recharge voucher from any of your mobile, so that you will get a number. That same number, once it is used, it gets destroyed, and the same number will never get repeated. So this is a unique ID. The same thing, we generate a unique ID and then give it to the user. Now we don't give that thing or we don't display that thing to the user, because user will definitely get irritated when they say that I'm tracking you down. So if I tell you that if you visit to my site, I'm going to track what you are going to do, you will simply go out of my site. So what is usually done is, we don't directly talk to the user, we talk to the user agent. What is this user agent? In most of the case, this user agent is the browser. So we tell the client browser, this is the ID. Next time if the user is making a request, send me this ID back to me. So the browser, without telling the user, will automatically send this ID back to us. How does it do that thing? Usually it is done in the form of a cookie. Now what is a cookie? Cookie is nothing but it's a small piece of text. It may be 2 characters, it may be 4 characters, but it cannot be 100 GB. It is not going to be that. What is the reason? The cookie is usually placed in the header of the HTTP packet. And if by now you are familiar with this idea called as packets in any of the protocol, there will be a huge data which is coming from the any packet will have this one, but there will be a small header that has some control information. The header length is always very small, but the payload or the data part will be very large. Fortunately or unfortunately, the cookie is placed in the header, not as the payload. That means to say that you cannot put lot of content in the cookie. Otherwise, what will happen is that cookie itself will not be fitted into this tiny head. So the cookie must be very small thing. Can you have something which is text or non-text? It's not possible, because this is a control information. It is not the data. Here in the data, you can encode the data into a very specific format. Like if you have a movie, you can encode it in a specific format and then pass it across the other side. Whereas the headers, those informations you cannot try to do all kind of tricks, or you can play all the tricks that you can play at this position, that is at the data side. The reason is header is meant for the control information, and nobody expects to do a lot of magics in this particular thing. This must be a straightforward thing. Whoever receives this packet must be able to read the header and must be able to interpret the content in the header. They may not be able to interpret what is there in the payload or in the data section, because it may not be, it may or may not be targeting to the same person. So whenever a header is received, by for that matter, in the any intermediate thing, so from your machine, the packets may go to an intermediary, and finally it may reach the destination. All the intermediary must be able to understand what is there in the header section. They may or may not be able to recognize what is there on the data or the what is there in the payload, because they are simply not interested in it. You are already familiar with the routers or the other network devices. Their work is to just relay the packets here and there. They are less bothered about what is there inside the packets. So they are very busy in relaying it. And the way in which they do it is they start reading the header. And if the header itself is too complicated, they will take a lot of time to relay these packets here and there, and the result will be a network congestion altogether. So header is usually very simple, and the things that you are going to place in the header must be simple. So what you can place in the header is a very small tiny text, and you can ask that text to be given to the browser. So when you place or when you send a cookie, what you are usually doing is you place a small text here that may not make sense to the others, or that may not make sense to the all the intermediary who are receiving this packet, but the browser or the user agent knows what is the significance of this particular piece of control information. And the browser, the minute the browser gets this particular cookie, it's going to store that cookie with it. Now it can store the cookie on a hard disk for the later use, or you can even tell the browser, do not save this in the hard disk, just keep it in your RAM or in the main memory, and when the user closes this browser, just destroy this cookie altogether. So you can specify the browser what you can do with the cookie. I'm going to tell you how it is done in the section on cookie, but as of now, a cookie is nothing but a small piece of text. So this is what usually happens. Whenever you visit a site, the site sends the packet back. Within the packet, there is this cookie. So when the site sends this information, the cookie is placed and that cookie is sent to the browser. And the browser, whenever the user visits back to the same site, the cookie is automatically sent with every request. So every HTTP packet that goes from this browser to the site, that cookie is always placed in the header. And this is done automatically by the browser. So the next question is, as a user, can I prevent the cookie from transferring from my machine to the other? The answer is yes. If I feel that cookie is a nuisance, I can just ask the browser not to accept any cookie from the site. So I can tell the browser that I can go to the configuration of the browser and I can tell the browser, do not accept any additional things. If the site says, I'm sending you a cookie, just reject it. Don't accept that, don't store it. Okay, when it is not storing any cookie, naturally it won't send anything back. Okay. Now let's look at how this is done. If you have any of the browser, most of the time they are using either the Firefox or the Chrome. Maybe rarely you may use the Internet Explorer, or some of you may be still stuck with the Internet Explorer. So in any case, whenever you use a browser, in the browser you have a settings for the cookies. I can go over here and I can tell the browser, I can go to the options, and then I can go to the privacy, and in the privacy I can tell the browser clear the individual cookie or clear everything. So I can go over here and I can check which is the site. Suppose if I visited this Google and you notice that it gave me a lot of cookies. It's not one cookie that it is giving. It is showing me the cookie and it is showing me the content within this cookie. And it says when this cookie is going to expire. So it has actually stored this cookie in the hard disk now, and this cookie on 17th February 2016 will be automatically deleted by the browser. So I can say remove all the cookie, or I can say remove this cookie, or if I'm not really happy with this, I can go and I can set the lot of the things over here. There are a lot of things you can do over here. You can customize it, and then you can say what you can do with the cookies and so on and so forth. I'm not going to waste my time on this. If you want, you can leisurely go through all the options which are available in the browser. Now, is this the only way of handling this session? Remember, what is the thing that I am doing? Whenever a client comes to me, I set a cookie. Cookie is a small piece of text. It is automatically handled. I place the unique ID. I have to somehow identify the user. So I generate a unique ID and I will place this ID inside this cookie and give it to the client side. When the client sends the request back, automatically this cookie is going to come back with the header. I read the cookie. From the cookie, I get the ID. So I know that if this person is visiting me for the first time, I send a cookie to him with the ID. Next time when the next request is coming back, the HTTP will not tell me, HTTP will not say that this is the same person who has come back, but that packet contains that cookie. So when I receive the packet, I open up the packet. From the packet, I fill out the cookie. From the cookie, I get this ID that I have sent to that person. So for every person who is visiting my site, I create a unique ID, put that ID inside a cookie, and give it to them. Next time when they are coming back, they will return back that ID to me. So I know that even though I don't know their name, even though I don't know whether they are logged in, or even though I don't know from which country they are coming, but at least I know that if the person is coming back to me, and if that packet, if that request packet has inside its header a cookie, I know that this person has visited me before. That's the reason that has a cookie inside it. Now, if I look at my own browser over here, and if I go to this particular page, how come the Google knows that I'm already visiting the Google? Now, if I look at this particular thing, even though I have not said anything to the Google, even though I have just searched the Google, Google has given some ID, some account uses some ID over here. One of them will be a ID. For example, you notice over here, the one that actually says yes ID, and you notice that this is a very large number. So the minute I type google.com, this cookie is going to be automatically sent to the Google. I am not logged in. I have no account in the Google, but still the Google knows that this person visited me, and this is the second time he is coming back. How does it know that thing? Is because my request will contain a cookie inside it. The minute I get a cookie with the session ID, I know that I gave them the ID, and that is why this person is coming back to me, and then onwards I am able to track this person. So this is how it is done. This is the simplest way. What are the other ways in which we can track the customer, or we can track the client? The other way of doing it is this is a bit complicated one. Every request that the user is making, we manipulate the request and add the session token directly with the request. So every time a request is made, the request is manipulated in such a way that the request will contain one of its fields as the ID. That means to say that when they click on the submit button on the form, the submit is manipulated in such a way that this ID is coming back with us. So this is the other way now. The last one we have already, I think I showed you one simple example wherein you can use a hidden field. You put a field that is not shown to the user. It is there in the form, but it is hidden from the user, and place a session ID inside it. These are the three ways in which you can track the client. This is the most common way of tracking the client. Put it in the cookie, send it to the client, automatically browser will take it. Here you have to put an effort in such a way that every request the client is making, you have to manipulate that request and get that thing. Suppose if I go to this Google site, and if I try to type something over here, let me say I'm going to type, and if I try to see the request over here, but you notice that some request is going on here. Okay? Now, what is that? What do I mean by saying put it in the browser request? So I'm doing a request here. Now, what you are supposed to do here is, along with the request, you must see to it that the ID also comes to me. So let's say this is the ID. This ID along with the request, the remaining part is the request. Okay. This part is the actual request that is going on. Somehow you have to manipulate this URL in such a way that somewhere within the request, the ID is also sent to you. So you generate an ID and you manipulate all the requests in such a way that every request that the user is making automatically has this particular information inside it. So anything that is coming back to you will contain the ID, so that you know that This is the same user. The next option is a very simple option, and that is within the form you put a hidden item, like how you put the input, type is text, type is something. You create a hidden field called as type is hidden. This field will not be shown to the ordinary user, but inside the form that field will be there. Whenever a form is submitted, this value automatically goes to the server. This is how we are able to track the user. Okay. Now, what is the bad thing about the cookies? Now, remember, the minute you give a cookie to the browser, next time when the request comes back, the cookie will come back to you. Whether you want or not, the browser will simply send the cookie back to you because you set a cookie and sending it back. Okay. Sometimes you may not like to get a cookie unnecessarily. What about this particular thing? This is embedding a request here will open up to many problems. One of the problem is the ID that you are typing here is visible to the user, and something that is visible to the user is always dangerous because the user will be curious to know what if I, instead of making 3, what will it happen if I make it as 4 and send it. So he will start manipulating the value, and then onwards he will lose track of the user. So this is instead of 3, if somebody makes it as 4 or if somebody makes it as 5, you just lost the tracking number of the user, then onwards you lost the user altogether. So this is not a good idea. What about the hidden field? Now, hidden field will work only if the field is inside a form. If the field is outside a form, so what's the meaning of saying that is, if at all you want that hidden field to come into the back to you, then you have to write this one inside this form, and then inside somewhere this form you have to write input type equal to hidden, and so on and so forth. Okay, then you have to close that form. Now, if this is outside this form, automatically it won't be sent out. What is inside the form, it is only sent. That means to say that only the request that is generated from within the form, that is, if the submit button is there inside the form, and if somebody clicks on it, it's going to work. What will happen if they have a hyperlink? You know very well what is the meaning of saying hyperlink. Today morning you have created a hyperlink. So this kind of request, wherein you have not the form, you have this a href equal to some URL. This is not going to help you with the hidden form because the hidden field cannot be put in the hyperlinks. So if you want to handle using the hidden form, it has to be done using the DOM, and in particular this particular field must be inside the form, and you know very well that the customer or the client is going to come back to you by clicking something on the form, not by clicking on a URL. If they click on a URL or if they manually type the page, then everything is gone. So you know very well, most of you know that if at all you want to go to the Yahoo, and if you want to check the mail in the Yahoo, then what usually you do is you do type like this mail.yahoo.com. You don't start from the you know the direct URL, or you may type like live.in /login.aspx. Something you may type directly the URL because you know the URL. In this case, if the hidden field was set in the previous page, and instead of clicking something on the page, the user may start directly typing the URL. In that case, the number is lost. So if they click on this on the form, everything is going according to your predicted way. If they directly start typing it, if they know that okay, I have to go to the step number 3, so what they will do is they will go over here and they will just say, I want to go to the step number 3. So they will say, let's say localhost, and then say go to directly. They will say step3.php. So they simply type the URL because they are very familiar with it. So like exam.page, or you may be, it's like you know that your website is MSc and it is second sem.php. you simply type, it's going to be directly the people will jump from one page to the other. When they try to do it, the number that you are embedding either with the URL or with the hidden field, all are gone, then you lost track of the customer. So, is this the best way of using? The answer is no. Is this the best way of using? The answer is no. Is this the best way? Answer is no. This has a problem. What is the problem? In the middle, I can go over here and tell my browser that cancel all my cookie. I can just say remove this cookie, and if I try to do this, the session is lost. Then you lost the number altogether. So it is not a foolproof way of doing something. These two already have the problem. So what is the answer there? Best answer is combine all of them together. So either you have this, either you have that, either. So one of them will fit. If one fails, the other will give you the ID. Okay. So let's look at how the session is formed in the PHP. So whenever you visit a site, the PHP will generate a unique ID. This is a cryptographically created random number. It is not 1, 2, 3, 4. It is not a dictionary order. It is randomly generated, and the algorithm is foolproof that people will not be able to predict the next ID. So it is done like that. Okay. This ID will be stored with the user as long as you want to retain the session. If you say that I'm going to track the user for 1 day, you can keep the cookie for 1 day, or you can keep this number for 1 day. If it is just for 10 seconds, you can do that thing, and so on so forth. Okay. So how do I generate the unique number? There is no special method except that you have to call this session underscore. When you call this session underscore start, two things will happen. First one is the PHP will figure out whether the client already has a ID with it. So it will not generate the number or the session ID immediately. First thing it will do is the request that the user has given, it checks whether the client already has an ID. If the client says I already have an ID, it uses that ID. But if the client says what are you talking about, I don't know anything about the ID, then that means the client is not aware of this ID. In that case, it generates a unique number and then assigns to the client and says to the client that this is your ID. Next time, bring back this ID to me. So either it will generate an ID or it will reuse the ID if the ID is already there. Okay. So this is what is happen. Usually, the PHP will send a cookie to the client. If the client says I'm not accepting the cookie, then it will go for the URL, right? That is the second option. It will put the request in the it will put the session ID in the request directly. Now this cookie is usually named as session ID. However, you can change this whenever you feel like changing it. So let me go over here in order to just save some time. I have already created a page here, a site here, and I'm going to go at the top. Remember the first thing, this is a header. That is why the last time when I told you, type it here. The reason why I'm telling you to type it here is the ID has to go with the cookie. This is the default setting. So if you type it elsewhere, what will happen is, if you type after an echo statement, if you type echo here and then you type something here, after that, if you say start a session, what is going to happen is, when you say echo, some data is already sent to the client. Then you can't tell the client that this is a new header. The client will abruptly say that you should have told me right at the beginning. Don't tell me after some time, you don't tell me that the header has changed and other thing and so on and so forth. So right here, we are telling that the header must take this information. How do I do that? I'm going to say session underscore start. The minute I do this, and if I go over here, you will notice that I'm just running this page and there is nothing. I think that the echo statement was there. The echo statement was not there. You would have seen a very blank page. It's not really required that you are supposed to show that thing. So that echo statement is not really required. It just came because of my machine was a bit slow, so I was not able to delete it. So let me go back to this option and let me go to the privacy and let me go over here and let me ask this browser show me the cookies that are sent by this local, and you will notice that the local host has a special, so you will notice that the local host has sent you a cookie with the content this, and you notice that it now says this will end at this session. So what is the meaning of saying at the end of expires at the end of this session? When can a session end? The session can end if I close my browser. So that means to say that when I close the browser, I am just asking the Firefox in my case to delete that cookie. A small piece of text was given to you, just delete it. Or the local host may give instruction to the Firefox asking it to delete this particular cookie. So the your local host or your web application may tell the client, don't track the user. I'm not going to track the user anymore. Get rid of this number. If I want, I will give you one more number. In that case, when the server says delete the cookie, it is gone. So in other words, how long it is going to be there is not known. The client may close the browser, the cookie ends, or the server may instruct the client and ask the client delete the cookie because I'm not going to track you. Let me say whether this is the same number as the number that is sent by the client. Now there is a way in which, like all the other things, there is a way in which I can ask the PHP to show me the session ID. So I can just tell the PHP, show me the session ID. So this is a simple function that's going to run the session ID to me. I'm going to run this page again. I can refresh it, no doubt. So if I do that thing, and if I go over here, it's going to give me a number. This is the session ID. If I go to the option again, and if I go to the same place, and if I ask it, show me the cookie, and if I ask it, show me the cookie that was given by the local host, you will notice that local host with the cookie, every cookie has a name, so it can be more than that. If I just drag it here, you will notice that last number happens to be CB7. At least you know that it is 4CAA and 4CAEE, and this is the same number. So that's the text that was given to me by the browser, by the local host, and it is there with me. So this is the session ID, that is it. Now the question is, okay, you got the ID, so what's the great thing about it? By just giving the number, how do you track the state? How do you know that this person has ordered a pizza or not? Will that ID contain that pizza information? Are you going to place the entire world's content in a 32 character string? It is not possible. Then by the ID, by just using the ID, how can we track the user? To track the user, this ID that is generated by us on our server, we are going to allocate a space to the user. So the ID, whatever the ID was generated, for this ID, it's like creating a variable, a very large variable with the name equal to the ID. So this is not done on the client side, even though I'm going to go to the client side. So it's like you have this ID, let's assume that that's a variable name, and somehow you have a large lengthy array with this variable name. So whatever I put it inside this array, if I want to access it back, I need to get this name. So it's not the array, actually it's not an array, but the analogy is like that. So you create a storage space, associate that storage space with this ID. Whenever you want to track a user, whatever the user has done, you store it in this location that is identified with this number. If you have one more user, create the one more storage space, associate this storage space with the ID that you have given it to that user. If the user is purchasing, if that user is purchasing a t-shirt, put that information that the user has purchased. If you have one more user, give an ID to the user, allocate a storage on the server, not on the client machine, on the server, and if the person has booked a movie ticket, give that information here. So that means the ID is used as a reference for identifying the details. So when the user says, I want to purchase a pizza, you get the ID, and corresponding to this ID, put the details of the pizza, and then show one more page to the user and ask him, okay, where do I want to, or where do you expect me to deliver this pizza? The person says, I want you to deliver this pizza here and there. The second request comes for the delivery address. So I'm cross verifying this number. If this is the same number, I go to the same allocated space here and I put the details about the delivery address. I show one more page to the user and ask him, how are you going to pay? If the user says, this is my credit card number, the request comes back to me, I identify this number, go to the same allocation, page allocation, or the storage allocation, and I put the credit card number. So now I know that for this user, this is the pizza he has ordered, this is the delivery address, and this is his or her credit card number. So identify the user with the number. So the number will not make any difference. We give the number and we only track that number. The same number comes back. We have an allocation here. It's like we have a shelf here. That number comes, we look into the shelf. Whatever the information is coming, we will just put it into that shelf. We can pull the items out of the shelf. We can put the new item into the shelf. We can delete all the items from the shelf. It's up to us. As a developer, you can do anything. But remember, the items that the user has purchased, the credit card number, they are not sent back and forth. Only the number is sent. Very small text is sent. It is not going to be a very heavy overhead. Remember, at maximum 32 character, if you take one character is equal to 1 byte, apart from all the requests that the user is doing, your just extra load is 32 byte. If one character is 1 byte, if you have a string of 32 characters, 32 bytes are sent. Along with his address, along with his phone number, 32 byte extra will come. That's okay for us because it is not a substantial overhead for sending and receiving something back. Again, you are sending it only once, but whenever you are receiving it, that number is coming back to you. So let's go back and let's look at how the PHP is storing here. Now, in the PHP, when you have the WAMP or any other thing for that matter, the values that I told you that it's like a shelf. The number comes, you put it into the shelf. So this shelf is not a database. PHP does not maintain any database as such. Then where is it going to store? It's going to store it in the file system. So the location can be set by you. The default location is in the exam. You have a location called as temp. Okay, there is a folder called as temp. This one has files. Okay, these files correspond to the session that are there. For every session it is creating, it's going